Hey, good morning, good evening, good lunchtime, whatever it is, wherever you are. This is me introducing wireframe profiles and hopefully doing a little bit of MacGyvering. So, why wireframe profiles? What does that mean? Where has that come from? I guess I dreamt up the name wireframe back in December when I was playing about with Ecamm and decided that I would like a way effectively of building stuff in Ecamm that allowed me to be really flexible on what I was creating, because I was looking at all of these overlays that were available to you, and essentially they are just holes in a background. And to me, that wasn't flexible enough for live streaming, but certainly not for presentations. So what I have picked up on here is using Ecamm only for presentations. So what does that look like? Well, I'm using the power of Ecamm profiles essentially. And what I have done is I've created a set of folders in a profile, and I've loaded those up with a whole bunch of shapes and also a whole bunch of backgrounds. And between the shapes and the backgrounds, what I can do is go and create all sorts of different slide layouts for my presentations. And they're not fixed. I can go and change those as much as I like. But I have also loaded up the profile with a whole load of template slides for you to go and use as a starting point. So that's a number of different, what I'm calling different themes for the slides. Each one of those, as well as having all the different shapes in place, has also got all of the different cameras in place and some text placeholders for you as well. So all of that is built up for you. Everything you're seeing now is in Ecamm only. There are absolutely no use of Keynote or Canva or PowerPoint or anything like that. There are no builds using external packages to create little background animations with Apple ProRes 444, nothing like that. This is simply using the fly-ins on Ecamm to bring in a bunch of different shapes. Also within the profile, there's a whole load of slide builds, similar to the build you've just seen me using right at this moment, and a whole load of transitions as well. We will come back to those in later episodes. So this is episode number 1. Why would you want to do this in the first place? Well, if you don't want to go learn Keynote or Canva or PowerPoint or any other presentation tool, you don't need to. You can just come straight into Ecamm and do stuff. It means that you don't have to have open multiple applications at once. So if you're trying to work with Keynote and with Ecamm at the same time, it can be a bit tricky to ensure that you coordinate your slide deck and your scenes, in particular if you don't have a Stream Deck. So I'm not using a Stream Deck for this either. I'm going to use hotkeys in Ecamm for my slide builds. Finally, I guess, well, not finally. So also it means that you don't need to have multiple screens on available to you. So you don't need to have PowerPoint on one or Keynote on one or an iPad somewhere else or something like that. You don't have to try and cram them all in on one screen, because you have only got one screen here. It's your Ecamm screen. And of course, this could be going out directly to Teams or Zooms or your Live or whatever it is that you want to be doing. Final point actually is processor power. Some people are worried about processor power and how they're going to manage to run multiple applications at once. This doesn't do that. You're just running Ecamm. So you could run it all on your Mac Mini or your MacBook Pro or whatever it is without anything else. So today I'm just going to have a look at slides first of all, and then we'll come back to record some further presentations on the other elements. But let's look at the slides to start with to show you some of the examples of the template themes that are in there. So I've kind of got two sort of different styles of theme to start with. One with this sort of yellow and orange circles going on, and one more sort of green based. So something like this could easily be combined with a slide like this. So you're not restricted to just using one slide on your build. You can use as many as you like. Just go grab them, copy them, and drop them into your run of show. So I'll show you how easy it is to change them a little bit later in this presentation. But here's some ones, all with different looks and feels, but this one's very similar to the next one. So those two slides could potentially be paired together for a presentation and then just alternated for variation. And the backgrounds can be changed as well. So here I've got a nice stripy looking background. And the reason for putting the backgrounds in with stripes in as an option is that it can look a little bit more like bullet points without having to create complicated bullet points. So we'll look at that as well. So something completely different with a big area on the screen. You might have noticed there that I flew in the two sidebars there and the bars at the top just to make it look a little bit more of a dynamic entrance. Another nice stripy one, but fairly clean and tidy, where I've brought all of my presentation title and name over to this side, and the placeholders for that text is already in there. Of course, you can go change colours and things like that. Here's another fairly clean looking one, and what I have actually done there is I've taken a big orange square and dropped it off the side of the screen slightly. So you can do that with all of these builds. Just because the shapes appear as a one doesn't mean you have to leave them like that. So you'll see down here as well, I've dropped a little circle into the edge of the presentation. So Ecamm will allow you to a certain degree to drop things off the edge of the screen as well, and that can give you some nice effects. And you can go totally mad if you want to. So here's my sort of star-spangled banner or something like that. But it's up to you to play about with the shapes and create your own scenes if you want to. So you can start with one of these and then add your own bits and pieces, and just consider it like using Lego or something like that, because that's all it is really. So here we've got a very, very plain scene. So what I'm actually going to do is go and play about with this one a little bit and show you how things are built up and how you can make changes. So that involves me going into live demo mode, and that can occasionally be a bit of a disaster because I don't use live demo mode very often. But anyway, options, live demo mode, here we go. Turning on live demo mode. So here I am in live demo mode, and let me just scroll in a little over here so that you can see what is in the profile. So what we've got here is all of the different slide themes that I just showed you. So there's the different slide themes there, and just above it I've got a blank scene where it says my show, and that's where you would build up all of your different elements. So we're going to go do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is come down to the slide that I'm currently on. Well, I'm already on it anyway, but I'm going to make a duplicate of that slide. And then I'm going to take the duplicate and I'm going to drag and drop it up in my show, assuming I can get off the top of the screen, which maybe I can't if it's not showing. You roll that down a bit and we'll try again. So what I'm looking to do is just drop that into my show. So here it is in my show, and that's the one I'm going to play about with rather than break the existing slide. So one of the first things you probably want to do when you get the profile as a whole is actually to make a duplicate of it, because that way you won't break anything, and trust me, you will break everything. Nearly all the slides, nothing is locked, perhaps other than the background. That's intentional so that you can play about with them. The downside of that means that you can make them look a right mess very, very quickly. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to scroll out a little bit first of all. Oh, yep, that's the right direction, Martin. So I'm just going to scroll out a little bit so that you can see the whole slide, because what I'm going to do is add some bits to it. So I don't need my slides anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down into my library where I've got a bunch of shapes. So I should really zoom in on that to let you see where the shapes are. There'll be a bit of zooming in and out going on, but here's some shapes in the library. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of these shapes and I'm going to drag them onto my new scene up here where it says copy of theme J. So I'll disappear off the screen for a second, but you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So here I am on the scene with a bunch of shapes, and down the bottom we can see they're all kind of labelled. Some of them with more cryptic labels than others. I should really improve on that. But if I wanted to take that shape there and drop it onto my scene, then I could just click and drag that onto the scene. And then maybe I want to add in a couple of elements as well. So we're going to have some stars on that, I think. And yeah, maybe we'll come, yeah, let's take this as well. So an orange dot as well. That's going to come up huge when I go back and have a look at it, but I will do. So here's my scene with all the elements dropped over the top of it. Of course, they are in the wrong order and not necessarily in the right size. So you want to do something about that. So I'm going to take that yellow corner and I'm going to drop it down behind me. And you'll be able to see this better when I zoom in or out. So all the other elements that I've got here, I can change the size of anything that I want to. So if I want to get this dot to that size, then I can do. If I want to move this around and change the size, then I can do, and I will do in a minute or two. So anything on the screen that you see, you can change the size of. Let me go scroll back out again. Now you've seen me dragging and dropping stuff in and out the library, so that I can see the whole of my screen and what it looks like and do a little bit of designing and changing. So if I want to take my stars and put a star up here, if I right click on it and duplicate it, then maybe I can have a couple of stars up here. And maybe I want to have the orange dots as if they're bullet points. So I'm going to scale that down a little bit. And we'll put that somewhere there. And again, we'll just duplicate these. And you can do this for any of the slides that you want to. But what you can also do is you can go, if you like certain elements on two different slides, you could just go copy and paste stuff from two different slides if that's what you wanted to do. So even this big giant corner that I've got up here, you could resize that as well. So if I take that, I'm just going to make a copy of it and duplicate it and move it down here. And I could have it sitting behind me like that. That's an interesting effect. But I can change the size and move it around as much as I want to. So if I wanted something that was more like that, to just add a bit of drama to that slide, then I can do. So I can resize that, move it around as much as I like. Now, I'm not sure I'm overly keen on that, so I'm going to lose that particular one. So if I come down here, I can just drop that into the bin. And of course you could hide and show things as well. That's another option for you. But I'm going to add in some text here as well. In fact, before I add in the text, I've noticed that just down here, I think that that's a little bit low. So I'll just shift the text around a bit and then add in some text. And I call it bullet, if I can spell. Bullet 1, I can't spell. Bullet 1. Additional text. And I think what I'm going to do is make some of that light and some of that less light. So I'm going to make that thin, which is just something that I frequently do. And we'll change the color of that as well. Let's make that white. And we'll maybe make that bit yellow. And I'm picking the colors off the screen there intentionally because the color palettes are all set for you. So don't go randomly choosing other colors unless you want to add them into the palette. They're intentionally set to blend with one another. So here's my bullet point, and I'm going to duplicate that a couple of times. So that'll do, and I could change it to bullet 1, 2, 3 and 4. In fact, let me do that because it makes some more sense. Bullet 3, and when I look over here in my overlays panel, I'm going to see a little bit more clearly that it's bullet 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3. So let me just zoom in on these for you, because this is something else that you can do if you want to. So for each of your bullet points, there is a little sort of command key at the end, and if you click that command key there, you can add in a hotkey for your bullet points. So I ought to do these in the right order to make them more sensible, shouldn't I? So let's put these in as 1, 2 and 3, just so that it makes sense when I'm actually adding in my hotkeys. So I'm going to hit the key there, and I'm just going to use the keys in the middle of my keyboard. I'm using keys starting with R and then moving to the right. So the next one is T, and the next one is Y. So let me scroll out again. So I've now created my slide with my additional bullets on and things like that. What does that look like when I've got a slide build? Well, I can make things disappear and reappear. So let me make them disappear by hitting those 3 hotkeys that I've already set. So that was R, T and Y. So if you can imagine, I've just come onto this scene and I'm talking about my bullet points. I can then just use R to bring in my first bullet point, T for the second one, and there's my third. Now what I could also do is add a fly-in as well. So if I wanted to build those in from the left, I could grab that, build that one in from the left. I can grab that, and finally we'll build that one in from the left as well. I'm just going to save that. Now I'm going to make them all disappear again. So I'm just hitting my keys. So now when we come into this slide, I've got something that's starting to look quite a lot like PowerPoint or Keynote or Canva. And it's as simple as that to go play about with things. There are a bunch of pre-built builds that are fancier. I will show you those a bit later and how you can actually combine elements of a build together. But for the moment, I think that there endeth the first lesson, so to speak. So let me do the little single outro slide, and then I'll be pressing the end button twice. Well, I hope to, anyway.